There is one mystery from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that I haven't seen get a lot of attention from the Pokemon community, at least not here on YouTube. Why are some of the past Paradox Pokemon related to modern Pokemon that are not fully evolved? Specifically, we're talking about Jigglypuff's counterpart, Screamtail, Misdreavus's counterpart, Fluttermane, and Magneton's counterpart, Sandyshocks. Before you get too excited, I don't have a definitive answer for you, but I have a few ideas. Option 1. Evolution Stones didn't exist. Jigglypuff, Misdreavus, and Magneton all evolve with an elemental stone, so maybe those were not around in the past. Maybe Moonstones had not yet fallen to the earth, for example, so the conditions for Screamtail's evolution couldn't be met, even if they were genetically capable of it. If Duskstones and Thunderstones are naturally occurring gemstones, maybe the geological process of their formation wasn't complete yet, or hadn't brought them to the surface where Fluttermane and Sandyshocks could interact with them. It's also possible that the stones are not natural, but artificial, and hadn't been invented yet. But this doesn't solve the mystery. For one, a Thunderstone is not the only way that Magneton can evolve. They can also evolve when exposed to a special magnetic field, like the ones on Mount Coronet or Chargestone Cave. Did the magnetic fields also not exist in the past? Did they just not exist in Paldea? There isn't one in modern Paldea, so that could be it. But if they didn't evolve in the past because of circumstance rather than ability, then why don't they evolve when exposed to those stones in the present? Option 2. The spiky-eared Pichu problem. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, there was an event where the player could encounter a spiky-eared Pichu. Aside from the unusual ear, it was a normal Pichu, but it had been traveling across time with Celebi, which Professor Elm speculated had affected Pichu's genes. One of those effects was that it could not evolve. Sadly, no spiky-eared Pikachu. Screamtail, Fluttermane, and Sandyshocks all also arrived to the present through time travel. So it's possible that back in their original times, they could evolve, but there's something about time travel that locks Pokemon into their current state. But that still leaves some unanswered questions. If the time machine reaching into the past can pluck out some Pokemon that aren't in their final stage of evolution, then why doesn't the time machine reaching into the future do the same? There are no future Paradox counterparts of unevolved Pokemon. Is that purely coincidental? And if these Pokemon are unevolved, how come their base stat totals are on the same level as the fully evolved ones? Option 3, that's not a Jigglypuff. When we look at the fossil record to construct the evolutionary history of an organism, we never get a perfect picture. The picture is incomplete. Fossilization is a rare process that requires precise circumstances, so we don't see every step. But even for the steps we do see, we can't definitively trace a direct connection. Yes, birds as a group evolved from theropod dinosaurs, but did ostriches evolve from Deinonychus? Maybe you could make that kind of deduction on a small scale, but when there's too much time in between, it becomes impossible. The point I want to make is this. Although the Paradox Pokemon are clearly related to their modern counterparts, they're not necessarily direct ancestors. Screamtail clearly shares a common ancestor with the Jigglypuff family, but it may not be the ancestor. Those lineages may have split off, so while they share many similarities, they don't have to follow the same life path. The weakness that I see with this option is that past Paradoxmon really do share a lot of similarities with their modern counterparts. So do future Paradoxes for that matter, but that could be for completely unrelated reasons. As much as a culture might say that Screamtail is from a billion years ago, they look rather closely related to Jigglypuff. They are comparable to some regional forms, including in whether or not they evolve. So it's hard to imagine that they aren't direct ancestors. Option 4. This is my final form. Even if they are direct ancestors, it's possible that in the past, Screamtail, Fluttermane, and Sandyshocks were the final stages of their evolutionary lines. Maybe the need to develop further would only evolve later on thanks to changes to their environment. Screamtail being unable to evolve while Jigglypuff can doesn't feel much different from Linoone in Hoenn being the final stage, whereas in Galar they evolve into Obstagoon. And since their base stat totals are the same as the other Paradox Pokemon, they already match the power level of their competitors without needing an extra stage. Plus, Misdreavus and Magneton are both Pokemon that, before the discovery of Mismagius and Magnezone in Generation 4, were themselves considered to be fully evolved. Maybe Jigglypuff was too at some point. The problem here is that if the stage that is considered final can change, why don't we see that in the future paradox? I can imagine a world where, thanks to environmental changes, a Pokemon no longer needs to evolve, or it develops a new stage. Iron Jugulis could have been a Zweilous counterpart, or Iron Bundle could have been a previously unknown evolution to Delibird. Option 5. They aren't real. Many of my objections to previous ideas come from inconsistencies between the Paradox Pokemon. But maybe that doesn't matter. There's a theory floating around that the Paradox Pokemon are the product of the imagination of Heath or Sada/Turo. If someone dreamed up the Paradox Pokemon, there's no reason they need to be consistent. I don't subscribe to this theory. Pokemon Day is just around the corner, so we might find out soon enough. But I hope this isn't the case. It was all a dream doesn't tend to be a satisfying justification for these kinds of inconsistencies, even if the rest of the story is fitting and well written. But I guess it would be better than option 6, anything to make a buck. This is not a lore explanation, but it should be worth considering. Jigglypuff is more popular than Wigglytuff, for sure, so I won't put it past them to pick Jiggly just for the mass appeal. Many of the Paradox Pokemon are based on exceptionally well-loved Pokemon like Iron Valiant, Iron Thorns, and Iron Moth and Slitherwing. If we look at all Paradoxmon, maybe they are all based on the most popular member of the family. But if they were picking based on popularity and nothing else, I'd be surprised that they chose to go with Magneton and Hariyama. Or that Pikachu, Eevee, and Meowth didn't get a nod. I guess there's still hope that one day we will get or puzzle out for ourselves a satisfying lore reason. What is your favorite reason Screamtail, Fluttermane, and Sandy Shocks don't evolve? Did I miss a major possibility? Let me know in the comments. I prefer the explanation that they used to be the final stage, even if it has shortcomings. Anyway, I just wanted to get something out before Pokemon Day, and this is a topic that I find intriguing and I hadn't seen anyone else talk about before. If you have more evidence to support any of these options, I'd love to hear about it in your own video. Thank you for watching, and a big thank you to all of the Libros who support me financially, especially our newest member, Tremor. I'll see you in the next chapter.